Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Stefanski and AB and Podesta took over a team that was playoff caliber team. And in the last 5 years, they ran that team straight into the ground. I don't know how they don't get fired, all of them, at the end of this year. If I was the owner, I'd be livid by this point. And everybody talks about how good of a coach Stefanski is. He's terrible. I don't think anybody would hire him as a head coach if he got fired. He'd get hired maybe as an offensive coordinator. But anyways, I'm just frustrated, as I'm sure 99% of the fan base is. And I just don't understand why the owner sits on his butt and doesn't do anything about this. Bring somebody who's going to set a tone and change the freaking mentality and culture. You come in, you set a tone, the team changes and improves immediately. People fall in line when somebody holds them to the fire. Management 101.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Let's welcome in Dalton Wasserman, PFF data analyst, co-host, PFF College Football Show. I get the frustration. I have a thought. One is the owner might have been involved in the decisions that the caller doesn't like. And the other thing, earlier in the show we told you, Paul DePodesta is likely headed to take control of the Colorado Rockies. Back in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it from that standpoint, I mean, they're going to be going through a lot of change in the leadership structure. And really, I think you're right. A lot of those decisions, including the Deshaun Watson trade that really got us down this road here to where the Browns are at now, those are higher up decisions even than Kevin Stefanski sometimes, right? It takes an entire organizational ladder to be in sync as far as these big decisions go. And the fact that maybe they had some internal disagreements or just went about it the wrong way the last few years, that's where we ended up here. I mean, honestly, I disagree with your caller there. I would hire Kevin Stefanski as a head coach in a heartbeat again. Two-time coach of the year. He's brought the Cleveland Browns to the playoffs twice and really with some turbulent quarterback situations along the way. So I think he's a really good coach. They're just short on talent. They've mishandled a lot of things the last couple of years.
Yeah, and again, fans want somebody to point the finger at and say it's his. They've been it's a collective. So they're not going to tell you, they're not going to peel back the curtain and let you know, well, it was Jimmy who pushed for this. It was Paul who pushed for this. This one was on Andrew. That's the way they've chosen to operate as a management structure. And it's frustrating. You can hear it. That is the norm for Browns fans, and I get it.
Yeah, no, I get it too. Trust me, Dave, as a New York Jets fan myself, there's a similar feeling there for the last 15 years, and now we're tearing it down again. Now, I think the Jets got fair value for those trades, and I get where they're going towards. But look, it's the understanding that what you're dealing with is a long-term problem, right? And I know that's hard for fans to accept because fans are here. They want to see winning ball club. They want to see them win games, right, consistently. And there's just certain teams in the NFL that haven't been able to do that, and it's frustrating to watch year after year after year when you're talking about. I mean, certain teams go on a decade plus of not making the postseason, right? And it's tough to watch. It really is. So you want that gratification, but it also has to be built the right way in order to get there.
Yeah, and again, fans are always, they should have gone all in, take the big swing. Well, you're living what happens when you take a big swing and it misses. And it is a historic miss with the trade for Deshaun Watson. I don't blame him for doing it. And I understand the frustration, but this is the downside. When somebody has reservations about going all in, this is why.
Absolutely. And it's not just the trade itself and acquiring the player. It's giving him a fully guaranteed baseball-style contract, right? And in the NFL, you see this is why nobody else does this with these quarterbacks. You had the Russell Wilson situation in Denver, and they were lucky enough to get Sean Payton and Bo Nix in there and turn it around pretty quickly. But that's a rarity right there, is turning it around that quickly when your salary cap especially is that much of a disaster with the Watson contract fully guaranteed, and nobody else is going to take it at this point. We know that. He hasn't played well enough for anyone else to want him as a player, let alone the contract. So it's a messed up situation with the roster, with the talent acquisition and how that hurts that, and then even just the lack of financial flexibility to have.
Yeah, and it all goes back to that trade without question. That's why it is pretty much universally now regarded as the worst trade in sports history.